Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Recovery Unplugged Live. I'm John with GNBC Live, and we have Amy Leigh McCorkle. Hey, Amy.
Hello. Hey.
And we have author Mick Williams with us tonight. Hey, Mick.
How you doing, John? You alright?
Good to be here. Good to be back, Amy. So, Amy, before we get
Good to
started
be
with your
back.
interview with Mick, what is new with you?
Well, Letters to Daniel is just the movie that keeps on ticking. We got another official selection. This one was for the Mysticon Independent Film Festival. It's in Roanoke, Virginia. Um, I'm curious to see because it's a sci-fi fantasy horror con. I don't really see us winning anything there, but if you were going to tell me quality of movie is showing there, Legend was pretty good for what we spent on it. So I'm just glad it's going to be seen in another part of the country, like Virginia, and it just feels good. And I've got a couple of letters to Daniel. Got a couple of more things, but then I got signed with the publicist. Signed up with the publicist, and she already I posted it right before I came on here on Instagram, and I cross posted it to my social media. It is my new logo, and it is Amy Leigh Creations, and that puts everything. I'm hearing um, but the creations, she's creating me a website, and plus she's going to be doing what a publicist does, and I got real excited. There was a lot of things we had in common. It's like that. It feels like synchronicity. It's like that. Letters to Daniel just like is crazy the way it connects to people in different ways. But she's also going to have a whole page dedicated just to this podcast. So
And had you been in search of a publicist? How did that all kind of happen? Did it happen organically, or what's the scoop on that?
well, I actually saw that. I saw her name, and it said, "Oh, she had liked one of my posts or something," and I checked her out. And on LinkedIn, it said she was an author. And then I read on, and it said, "I'm a full service PR person, and with select booking." And some of the people she represents are Molly Hatchet and the Molly Hatchet Band, the bass player from Boston, people from Leonard Skinner. They're actors that I know. Vincent Azari, he was on All My Children and Guiding Light, and there was I can't think of, there was another, but she's got a, like she said, she doesn't take on everybody. She says, like she said, it happened. I actually messaged her way like a month ago, and she says, Amy, I don't just sign anybody. And it's like everybody else that's on my team right now. They went and they vetted me, and they said, oh my God, you do all this stuff, and why don't you have this yet, and why don't you have that yet? And I'm like, so it kind of happened organically. And the conversation I had with her, I expected it to be about 10 minutes because people in the industry don't have a lot of time to spare. And our conversation went over an hour talking about the strategy for my career going, like publicity wise going forward.
That's cool. Good deal. So we're gonna watch the old
Yep.
King Cole trailer, and then we're gonna come back and you're gonna interview Mick.
Yes, I
And so,
am.
for those of you who may or may not know, we play the old King Cole trailer now, in tribute to Dell AOF Weston, creator of the Action on Film Megafest and the Hollywood Dreams Megafest. And so we want to make sure that we're paying tribute to him, as we're doing our episodes in December. And so we're going to show that trailer now, and then we'll come back, and Amy's going to interview Mick.
I came from the mud. There's blood on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Should have got some headphones.
Hey, we're back. And I want to know, before we get into the interview, what did you do for Thanksgiving, Mick? Did you celebrate it? Did you eat or did you do something else?
We did a mix of things. The first thing we did that we've never done before was we baked a cake.
Ooh.
From scratch, no box stuff.
Ooh.
Stuff out of bags and bottles. There's a show in England called The Great British Bake Off.
Yeah, yeah.
Seen it. We both really enjoy it, and so we decided we were going to make an almond cake from scratch, and we won't do that again. It took oh dear hours. It's just spent hours making a cake, but anyway, it was nice. We baked a cake. My stepson and his wife came around, so we all had dinner together. And I sort of video chat with the family in England over FaceTime and speak to mum and keep in touch with them. But they don't do Thanksgiving in England.
I wonder why.
It's great to me. Well, they haven't got to bake a cake, have they? So we had a nice quiet day. It was just the four of us and the two cats. Traditional turkey dinner and didn't overindulge. No one got drunk and no one said anything silly. And we just chilled out and hung out. So it was a nice day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will get into it. So we met at a convention called Imaginarium in 2000. Yeah, years and years ago. In 2014.
Good old.
Yeah, I'm 46 now. When we met, my hair wasn't as gray as it is now. But
yeah.
So when you went to Imaginarium, what brought you to Imaginarium? What was your experience like there? And what was your first impression of me?
Meeting you was great because I met you and Missy Goodman together because you're like the A-team, like a double act. Met both of you together. It was a lot of fun. Expectations. I'd never been to a convention before, so
that was a good one.
It was what a way to start, no doubt. I had one manuscript written, and I had an idea for another one, but I had no idea what to do with them. And so I saw the ad for Imaginarium, and I had met a few people outside of them, like obviously the famous Tony Acree.
Yeah, we've had him on here too.
Who eventually is now publishing some of my books, bless him.
Yes.
And I went in having no clue. I didn't really know anybody. So you wear your little name badge and you try and get to know people. And I went in literally just to see what was involved and if I could actually do it. Because
I would say, yeah.
Easy, obviously, I mean, the word doing the words bit's easy. It's everything else that goes along with it that's complicated.
Well, yeah.
And I didn't expect anything really, and I was absolutely bowled over by there's no competition. It's just one huge big family.
Yeah, you could feel it definitely that first year because it just, whatever problems they had, they were able to hide them from the actual convention goers themselves.
Yeah, I want to say they were a good team.
Yeah. But Holly wasn't there in 2014.
Right, she wasn't, was she? No, that's probably why they got just so crazy now because Holly's involved.
Hey, good thing Holly was there this last year.
You are not kidding. Bless her.
So tell us, if you're comfortable with it, tell everybody what happened at Imaginarium this year.
Well, I'll tell you the whole history of it. Because what happened, I mean, I'm of reasonably good health. And I've never really had, other than being deaf as a post and now getting to be blind, I've never really had any issues. And then in February of this year, the day after my son's birthday, fortunately, because I still work a full-time job, fortunately my wife works from home, and I was right here in this room doing some writing, and I remember walking in the room and hanging out. One of my cats who followed me around everywhere, he was in here chilling, and I stood up and I woke up in hospital.
Wow.
Like, had no clue. And apparently, well, I didn't know at the time, I had suffered a grand mal seizure.
Oh.
So, compounded by the fact that I fell through some of the furniture and broke my clavicle and broke the toe. I must have tensed real bad. So it tore the muscles away from the inside of my ribs, and I couldn't sit up. And not the nicest of days. But I had no clue, because when I woke up, I couldn't remember any of it. All I remember was I was standing in here and I woke up in hospital. But apparently, in the middle of all this, I had woken up. 2 paramedics were sticking the sticky things, suckers on you, and there's still the pads that they pulled off are still here when I got back home. I was arguing with them, saying I was okay, and my wife was telling me to calm down, we're here to look after you. And apparently I walked out to the ambulance, got in the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. I don't remember any of this.
Wow.
I was in hospital for a few days, and they ran every test with the son twice, found absolutely nothing, and said, maybe just had a short circuit, don't go home, be careful, don't drive for a while, all the usual stuff. Fast forward from February to July. Yeah,
it was July.
July for Imaginarium. So I've been in England for 3 years, so I was so excited about getting there and seeing everybody again. So on the very first day, panels, and I just come out of and
you were at a bar. You were at the bar.
Yeah,
I watched you, and you took out your wallet, and then you just started going down. And
I'm glad you remember that. See, at least I took out my wallet to buy a drink. I wasn't being tight.
Yeah.
I remember to Rip Rawlins, and he said that he's a long-sailing Marine. He's seen everything there is to see.
Yeah.
He brought up with me because I was okay. I went again, woke up in hospital, had no idea what happened. And I
saw it all go down.
Yeah, I saw me go down. Yeah. And apparently, and he said I saw the signs. Your arm curled up, and you sort of sagged, and then you just went.
They caught you, so you didn't.
Yeah.
There were like one on one side, one on the other, and then Holly's coming through, and we go, Holly, and she comes in, and her and her son, I think it was, actually started work like administering first aid or administering aid until. I thought it took forever for the ambulance to get there. In real time, it was just crazy, right? I remember, I can't imagine. I cried, like I had an anxiety attack. And it wasn't even me, right? It wasn't happening to me, but it was just like, oh my God, it's just overwhelming, and it was scary because. Actually, shortly before it was in July. So it was shortly before Imaginarium, my good friend Anthony died of a massive heart attack. So I watched, I watched you go down like that. So I'm sure that was a reaction more to a friend I'd had for 20 years. But so what was it like coming to again? And you're like, oh, great.
Well, same thing. I think I've got the text somewhere. It's way back on my text now. I came to in the ER this time. And if anyone's watching from Imaginarium, I have like a thingy now. I suffer from these things, and here's the contact numbers and stuff that I wear all the time. All being well, I'm on some medication that's going to stop all this from happening again. But it's exactly the same thing. I remember talking to Rick Rawlings about a panel that he'd just done, and because I was discussing my old Farts Club with him, the books that I do about veterans, and I had just given him a copy. I was getting ready to buy us some Angel's Envy bourbon, and then I'm in the ER room. I don't remember seeing anyone else. All I remember is Rip and a fellow named Jerry, who just introduced me to. And the fellow behind the bar, I was just getting ready to order a drink. And then all of a sudden, I'm on a stretcher in the ER room. But this time, I had no idea what was going on. But they said, "Oh, you'd had a seizure." So I texted my wife. And I mean, how do you start that test? I'm like, okay, first of all, don't panic.
I'm okay. Don't panic. And what does everybody do when they see "don't panic"?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm okay. Don't panic. Everything's fine. But I'm in the ER. So of course she came flying in there and found me. And this time at least because I had past history, they had my record still. I didn't get admitted. I didn't have to go for all those tests again. They did some tests like an EKG just to make sure there's no trouble and a couple of different dyes and injections and stuff. But I mean, they were really good. But that was the point then that they said, okay, well, this is the second one now. So it's not a one-off.
I will say, Imaginarium is really I've never seen anything like that go down there, and the fact that Holly handled it as well as she did, I respected and loved Holly anyway, but it just gave me a whole new appreciation.
I'm not able to stop thanking her because I went back. I was in hospital that night. I went back the next day.
Yeah.
The intention of going to the awards evening, but I ached so much, so I went back in the morning I was supposed to sit on a panel, and I wanted to thank the people that I knew, because Holly had texted me in a couple of times and said what happened. I wanted to thank the people there for what they did, and also gave Holly a big hug and asked her to pass on my thanks to her son, because blessed that he was there. And because I didn't remember any of it, I didn't feel any of the emotions that everybody around me felt, because they saw it.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to have a burger, and then all of a sudden I'm lying on a stretcher.
You're like, this sucks. I want my bourbon.
So no beer and no Imaginarium. And of course, I was dying to get the award ceremony because I was nominated for.
Didn't you win?
And I won.
Yeah, it was great. I got to pick up my awards from 2020, right? So I won 2 Imagines at 2020. Like, right, the year I win, there's no in-person meeting, no, right? And the movie got best score for Letters to Daniel.
That is a good score. I remember you shared those files with me when they were being.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so I was excited about that. And then we didn't win any outright awards. I was nominated for making of Letters to Daniel, a memoir, in nonfiction, like for the Imagine. I didn't win, but I didn't think I was going to, because there was a book about dealing with autistic children and seeking, right? So I was like, she's a story this year. I'm not worried. I got 2 of them last year.
It's opening some extra shelves up otherwise.
And then they moved, but we were runner up for best screenplay feature, and an episode of the show with Annabelle Monroe and Lorraine Wu it won runner up for web series. Although I don't know how they scored this, because one was like a narrative kind of storytelling one, and mine is more like a talk show, but theirs probably looked like it had higher production value, I guess. So I don't know how you do, but I was happy. I didn't expect to win anything for 2021.
I was looking forward to just being there and having some beers with everybody and chilling out.
I will tell you this. They need to get better food.
Say
That
again.
wasn't Holly and it wasn't Holly and Steven's fault, but like the dessert was really good, but like the food, like the entree, like I got some Chinese food afterwards because I was like, I know I paid for this, but it's okay.
It's not bad.
It
Yeah.
support, it supports Imaginarium, and I and it was just I bought 2 tickets. It wasn't like a big financial
I
burden.
looked at the menu, and if the proceeds had been going to Imaginarium, I probably would have bought the meal. But there's nothing on there really that caught my fancy. So I wanted to go and hang out with everybody because I hadn't seen them for 3 years.
Yeah.
But I did get so my first award I won Exodus, best thriller in 2019. I was in England, so didn't pick that up. And then this one I won best sci-fi for Hope's Game, and I'm in hospital and didn't get to pick this one up.
I will say this. So you have written a lot of books since 2014. It seems like. And, it's like when I say, hey, I started writing it. Well, I've been writing for my whole life. But, like, professionally getting a legit publication contract, it's like it started in, like, this last February was my 10-year anniversary of getting published. And the first house that published me closed its doors this year.
Oh, no.
But I think how small presses are. They're very dependent upon the owner to keep the engine running.
Right.
And if they don't learn to delegate. And she was having health problems, and her grandson, who was like 3, 4, was going through cancer treatment. So it was like, oh yeah. But he's cancer. For right now, he's been getting clean cancer screened. So, and she's actually happier with the publishing house closed because she does editing. Her name's Leah Skizzes, and she and Missy and a couple of other friends planted different seeds for that became the Letters to Daniel blog.
Okay.
So
for a reason.
So right, so why don't you tell us about the 2 books you've got coming out this month?
Well, one of them's already out. So the book that won the best thriller award in 2019 was called Exodus, and it's about a group of military veterans in different branches of the military who are just hanging out in a McDonald's because it came about. We went to a McDonald's, my wife and I. There used to be a McDonald's inside the Walmart where we used to live. Right. And every Sunday you go in there, and one of the tables was filled with veterans because they go in and get together for their mental health, to kind of bounce stories off one another and have that camaraderie. And they get free limited coffee refills. So they're sitting there for hours. And I thought, God, can you imagine if one of those guys got a phone call and said someone was in trouble and they all put their skills together and went off and helped? And what a typical
writer.
That's how the Old Farts Club was born. So what happened was we can just come back from our last decent vacation, actually, which was in Jamaica. Awesome place, very interesting. But we go up this road to Bob Marley's compound. It's like a really windy road on the side of almost up a mountain, not quite. And again, I thought, wow, can you imagine if we kind of toppled off here because there's no one else about? It'd be forever. And that's how it started. So one of the characters named Dud, he and his wife, their Jeep leaves the road in Jamaica. He comes to and she's missing. And so he phones the Old Farts back in Kentucky.
And then McDonald's.
Not in Kentucky. Because in Jamaica, so many people go missing in Jamaica that you're not considered missing for 72 hours.
That's scary.
A long time. And he knew she was missing. He knew.
Yeah.
So he called the Old Farts. Anyway, this story, long story short, that won 2019 award for Best Thriller for Imaginarium. And I've been working on the follow-up forever. But you know what it's like. You get an idea, and you get another idea, and you get another idea, and you get another idea.
Yeah, another idea, and another, and another, and another.
It finally got done, and I'm really proud of it. It's called Dark Target, and it's the same characters all come back. And the first book ends with a bit of a twist. I won't give it away, which sets up book 2. They stand alone, but if you read the first one, you'll know exactly where you're headed for book 2. And I sent it to Tony Acree at Hybrid Publications, because he does a lot of my books ages ago. But of course, with COVID that's going on and people not making covers and this and that and the other, and I mean, he's had a whole year, bless him. So if he's watching, positive thoughts to Tony.
Yeah.
It sat in, I guess it's what movie people say, pre-production hell for months. And I had no idea of a launch date. And in the meantime, back in England, my first ever book that I took to the very first Imagineering is called A Reason to Grieve.
Yeah.
My sister's been pestering the life out of me for a sequel for years. And I had written bits and pieces over the last couple of years, like scenes of ideas that might go into it. And when COVID struck, we were stuck at home in England because it was over there. The lockdown was even harsher than here. Like, you couldn't go out. There was nothing. You went out one day for your groceries and that was it. You worked from home and that was it. So
yeah, I definitely got that sense.
I had all this time at home. So I ended up writing A Reason to Breathe at home. And I thought, well, it's a really good, feel-good book. If you want to laugh, and if you're feeling a bit down, it's going to get you chuckling. It's a real fun book. Well, that'd be nice for Christmas. So I set it up for the 1st of December to come out. And then Tony emailed me a couple of weeks ago saying, Dark Target's dropped. I'm like, ah. So Dark Target came out already. And I'd not had any idea. I'd no clue it was coming out. And then and Reason to Breathe comes out on the 1st of December. So now I'm working this full-time job that's just gone ridiculously crazy.
Right.
Yeah, because my day job's just eating my life up. I'm trying to promote Dark Target because it's out.
Right.
I'm also trying to pre-promote A Reason to Breathe because that's out in 2 days.
Wow, 2 days. Where's it available?
30 days. Yeah, so it's the 30th of November tomorrow. Then December 1st, that's out.
So quickly, where can they get those 2 books?
You can get them at the moment because it's all happened so quickly. My website's not updated yet, but they're both on Amazon globally.
Okay.
I don't know if Tony's had time yet to put the Dark Target book on the Hydra Publications website. But yeah, if you search my name, Mick Williams, and either Dark Target or Reason to Breathe, they're up and running on Amazon. You can grab them there.
Okay, so I'm going to pivot a little bit to
Go ahead, pivot.
Okay. Have you ever been either directly or indirectly affected by mental illness, yours or someone else's?
Of someone else? Yes, I have. I don't know if you'd appreciate me talking about it.
Okay. I know
a number of people that suffer from depression. And I know someone else that took their life because of it, which is a while ago.
I'm sorry.
So yes, I know all about depression, and it's scary because for the longest time, me being naive, I was one of the people that's like, come on, things aren't that bad. Tomorrow you wake up, you'll be fine. It's all good. I had no clue.
Oh man, no, your brain is lying to you.
Now I am a little better informed.
Yeah, well, it's like Oprah said, when you know better, you do better. And before her, Maya Angelou said it. So
someone very close to me, on a couple of weeks ago, had a very rough week. And so yeah, I'm only there as a cheerleader, and I'm a bit wise. What's involved now.
What I usually do with someone who is like deep depression, I mean, because you can't talk them out of it. Because when I'm depressed, you can try to talk this isn't in the movie, but we were sitting and writing years ago, and I had a legal pad. That tells you how long ago it was. And she goes, just write out how you're feeling on the page. And I didn't know what was wrong with me now, mind you. I just had tended to have really high highs and really low lows. And I didn't know why. And so she tells me this, and you get obstinate, you get unpleasant. People like it, you actually do things that push people away sometimes. And if they
Absolutely.
don't know, they just think you're being a bitch. She told me, she goes, just write it down, write how you're feeling down. And that, I mean, that's so funny that I'm at where I'm at now because that's what I did eventually. But then I just wrote, she said, write how you feel. And I just wrote die, 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 like all the way down, all the way across and all the way down the page.
Yeah.
And she got so mad at me. And I said, you don't understand. I said, I don't know what's wrong. Like, or she would fall asleep. And it would be 2:00 in the morning, and my mom and dad would be in bed, and then she doesn't know I'm doing my show. That's my publicist. She says, please check your email. It's like when she would fall asleep, if it's 2:00 in the morning, nobody's up. It feels like suddenly I'm all alone, like in a crowded house, like I'm all by myself, and I get terrified and I just start crying. And, and this happened right before we decided to move to Texas. So it's like, duh, red flag, but nobody was talking about this then. So let me, John, is there anybody talking from the audience, or do you have any questions? Because I'm not finished, but my publicist just stinged me, and she wants me to check my email. I got to check it real quick.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you
Sorry.
Hey,
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear him, Mick?
Barely. I have to tune you down when John talks, Amy. No offense.
No, that's okay.
All right. That's as it should be. Mick, how did you get into writing?
Honestly, John, I wrote a couple of stories in high school, which is a bit of a cliche. But English language was my best subject at high school from start to finish. And I read a couple of stories, and I started to write a couple of books and never, ever got the motivation or the confidence to finish them. It's that thing where you like write a chapter and you think, oh, grief, that took me like days, and not realizing that there's a structure that you can use where you can get into it. You get a discipline and a habit builds up. And so it wasn't until I moved here that I started to have an idea. Someone actually dared me, because I kept talking at the place I used to work, that I wanted to write a book. And they were like, oh, what do you want to write? And I'm like, well, and I love the military aspects. I love thrillers and Bond movies and all the rest of it. And one of the guys that used to work at the place I was at, I'd get there early and get everywhere set up to open. And he'd be going through obituaries. And I'm like, what? Is this what you do every morning? And it's like, yeah. I'm the chief treasurer of our high school's funeral fund. So our graduation class has a funeral fund that we all pay into. And if anyone from our graduation year passes away and they have any difficulty in the funerals, we dive in and help out. So it's my job to check through the obituaries just in case anyone gets missed. If anyone's died, I get involved and make things happen and write a book about that. And I'm like, huh?
Right.
And it's kind of, it's dark, but the way he said it was in a caring way. There's nothing untoward about it whatsoever. It was very, to him, it was an emotional service he was providing for these people. So I decided to turn it into a bit of to lighten it up. So it ended up being a romantic comedy or dramedy, I guess.
And that was the book that you wrote,
that's the
Grieve?
That's A Reason to Grieve. And it's about two 30-somethings that have both suffered terrible loss. I won't go into detail in case anyone wants to read it. And they think that what they can do to try and, because neither of them can cry, we think, well, if we gate crash funerals of strangers, there's going to be so much grief that eventually it must trigger something in one of us that we can cry. But of course, they keep bumping into each other at the funerals. The funerals go hilariously wrong, if a funeral can go hilariously wrong, which is where the comedy comes into it, until they kind of meet eyes for the umpteenth time, and they're like, you know what? As the movie quote goes, instead of seeing dead people, why don't we see each other and see if we can work something out? And that's where their journey starts, and it's all about the ups and downs and bumps that they go through. And that was how I started writing seriously. So then when I go to work early, instead of setting up early, I'd go in even earlier and sit in one of the back offices with a laptop and start typing these words away. And before I knew it, I was doing a couple thousand words a morning.
Wow.
And then it got to the point where I'm like, well, I can do this. Now, is it any good? So
Got a question. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, give you an example of how my mentally ill mind works. Her text actually said, check your email in about an hour. And I'm like, am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? My anxiety, right? Did I say something I'm not supposed to say, And so it's like my mind just, that anxiety, that paranoia that's a part of bipolar disorder can be either enhanced. And unfortunately, it's like I can't just say, I just need to, I hate it. It's like you got to be constantly reassured. And I can't do that professionally. I can't lay that at her feet and say, oh, listen, so I have, when I get off here, I'm going to go get a coffee because she's probably got work for me to do. And I'm like, I'll probably call Missy, honestly, because, that is right. And I was going to say, now I'm going to go into some speed round questions that are. It's fun. Trust me. I'm not going to have somebody come from behind like the Jerry Springer show and just if your life were a movie, what would the title be?
Oh my days.
Or a book. In your case,
can I pick one that I would like it to be?
Yeah.
Have you seen High Fidelity?
Yes.
I'd love my dream at one point was to run a record store. I love music, so I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't want his queries because John Cusack played a great part in that film, and the book by Nick Hornby is also. Excellent. Yeah,
I love the book.
Yeah, it's excellent. So I wouldn't want his insecurities and stuff, but I'd love to do what he did.
Yeah. Okay. If you could choose any actor in the world, in the known cinematic universe, who would you cast to play you in that part?
Him still. He nails it.
Yeah.
I read that book. I think I read it when it came out. It's ancient now. He's written tons of books since then. But I read that book, and even though they moved it to Chicago, which coincidentally is where my Reason to Breathe and Grieve is set, so what's that tell you? When I went back and read the book again, it was in his voice instantly.
Who was it? Oh, wow. I missed who you said.
John Cusack, right? John Cusack.
Yeah.
Excellent. Them boombox over his head guy from Say Anything.
Yeah, and he's done some brilliant. He's also done a lot of clunkers.
Yeah.
But I read an interview with him once that says he films the clunkers to fund taking time off to do other stuff.
Right.
Blockbuster stuff that he does.
Like I was saying, right? So, now, have you ever had the chance to meet any of your literary heroes or just heroes just in general? And were you grateful for the experience, or did you think it's okay, I don't have to meet them again?
This is funny. I've met two of my literary heroes.
Wow.
I've met one of them, and I've seen the other one do a talk. So, super blessed with a wife that knew about my loves of books and stuff. Lee Child, that writes the Jack Reacher books.
Yes, I love those books.
Yeah, he did a talk at the library in Louisville It's been back years now. You had to get tickets, obviously, and the ticket, you would get a hardback that he'd sign. You could take one with you to sign as well. And for Christmas on my birthday one year, she actually bought me a first edition Killing Floor's first ever book, first edition hardback.
Oh, wow.
It's still here. I can't pivot the screen because it's my laptop, but it's right here. So I took that with me, and we sat talking. And it's weird because what's happened, I'm not sure if you're aware what's happened with him here lately. He's kind of resigned and backed off, and his brother now writes the Reacher books. And he helped.
Wow.
But partway through the story, because he's English,
Right.
But he lives in New York, and partway through the kind of talk that he did, someone said, "Why?" Because there's only ever one Reacher book a year. And he starts writing, I think it's the 1st of September. He starts writing until the 1st of September every year until it's done. And that's it. And partway through, they're like, why do you only ever write one Reacher book a year? Because, obviously the fans will buy 5 or 6, they'll buy whatever you put out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's not like you punch a ticket or.
Exactly. But what he said that's now come to fruition is
Yeah.
that, A, I don't need to because I made a lot of money as a Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
B, and more importantly, I'm European. I don't have the work ethic. I just don't want to.
I
don't want to. And funny enough, now he's resigned and he's passed the reins over to his brother. So he's reached that point where he's like, you know what? I've done enough. I don't want to do anymore. I'm going to retire.
I cannot. I love doing it so much, and it's what drives.
I can't imagine not writing. And the other one is Stephen King.
Who? Oh yeah, Stephen King.
He did a talk at Recovery Unplugged, and here's a tale about karma that I'll tell you about this one. So we went to saw Stephen King, and again, my life was all over. I got tickets for this, and the tickets, you sit through the show, and at the end of the show, everyone went up onto the stage and you'd be given a hardback. And I want to say there were 4,000 people. I think Recovery holds, and it was a sellout. And they said of the 4,000 books that are coming out to you, 200 of them are autographed. And we were like, that's kind of cool. And so they'll just look again, see randomly on the stage. If you get one, yay for you. If you don't, you don't. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Things. So we went on the night. He is hilariously funny. Stephen King is so funny. He did this talk about writing and all the rest of it, and about the action. Like, he got killed, he got hit by a van. A truck.
Right.
We talked about that, and the entire time he was on, it rained. So all the people at the front were completely dry because it was covered, and all the people at the back, where we sat, when you get to a point where it doesn't matter how much more wet.
It doesn't matter anymore. It's like you're not even gonna.
My underwear is soaked. It doesn't matter how much more wet I get now. So the talk finished, and the girl on the stage had organised everything and says, okay, Stephen's gone backstage, going to set some tables up and bring all the hardbacks out. Bring your tickets. Our tickets were held together by paper dust because they were soaked. There was barely anything left of them. But they said, bring your tickets out to the stage and you'll get your books. And please, can everybody just be civil? You guys at the front, it's all random. Please stay seated. Let the people behind you that are soaked to the skin get to the stage first, because they want to get home and dry off before they'll die of pneumonia. We joined the line and we're going down the stairs, and this line of guys in the front row just got obnoxious and barged their way straight in front of my wife.
Ah!
I was polite Englishman, didn't kill anybody.
Yes, that's good.
Barged out of the way. Went up to the stage and they were like, oh, they got the books, opened it right away. God, nothing. My wife went up, handed her a book, she opens it up, she's like, it was signed. I went up next and this girl was like, you look like a drowned rat. And I said, here's my ticket, you can barely read it, it's so wet. And she's like, don't worry, here's your book. I opened mine was signed too.
That is great.
Yeah. So I met Lee Child and I kind of met Stephen King. neither of them disappointed me. Richard is really eloquent, and he did it. I actually had a photo that's on my Facebook page that said me and Jack Reacher's dad. Of me, and I'm blood red because he's like, and again, Stephen King was just very, very funny, and he just seemed like a genuinely down to earth, jeans and a t-shirt kind of bloke. And I was not disappointed by either of them.
Okay. But that's okay. And finally, this is, hold on, I gotta get a drink because my mouth is dry.
Yes, me too. I swear it's water.
So last question from me. If there are, as you say, young men, young women, maybe older adults, who are aspiring to become published authors, but are also struggling with different forms of mental illness like PTSD or depression or bipolar or schizophrenia, whatever. What kind of wisdom or advice or words of encouragement would you give them?
I would give them, the first thing in terms of writing, not only to be therapeutic in terms of mental health, something that I read recently, but also in terms of getting your words rounded to a way where they'll flow better, is to keep a journal.
Yeah.
Like you said about writing stuff down, keep a journal. Even if you feel fine one day and you're down the next day, and you're up the next day, every day keep a journal, write your day. Doesn't have to be anything deep. Write your day down.
It helps, yeah. Because I'm going to tell you,
it helps to get it out. But also in terms of writing, when you read it back, you're reading your own words.
Right, and it also helps you notice the rhythms of your moods at the same time. And
so for both reasons, journaling. In terms of writing, it's just read loads. Reading is writer homework. Whatever you read, doesn't matter, magazines or books, it's all written word, and it's all done by people whose style you might like or whose style you might not like, but you pick stuff up and you learn stuff regardless of what.
Okay. One question that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Have you seen the new James Bond movie?
Yes.
I loved it. What did you think?
I did. I thought it was very good. Maybe about 10 to 15 minutes too long, I would say. Maybe. But that's just my opinion. No, I think I grew up with my dad took the Spy Who Loved Me at the cinema. So that means I'm like in my 30s, obviously.
Yes, you're 29.
Yeah, so, I've always loved James Bond, and I have to say that it was getting a bit jaded. And I think Daniel Craig, because I know you think Daniel Craig is okay, he really isn't he? He's not bad. All about you and Daniel Craig. Hence letters to Daniel. I think Daniel Craig injected some much needed character into James Bond and turned it back.
Like there were layers on. He gave him layers. He gave him an inner life. Yeah.
And I like the fact that even though all these films in his kind of term, he's done the least number of Bond films in the longest period because of COVID.
Yeah.
But they have an arc to them, which they didn't have before. So you can just watch one of them and think, yeah, that's a good movie. Or you can watch them all and go, wow, well, that went from there to there.
Yeah.
That was really good. So
I think,
without giving any spoilers away, I think it finished off his role or his part in that role really well.
You know how his arc ends, of course.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to someone and they said, oh, I think this is a stupid reason to die. And I was like, it's everywhere. It's not like I'm speaking, it's been released for a while. Yeah. But his reason for the sacrifice he makes, I thought showed his growth actually because he didn't make that sacrifice in the first movie.
Absolutely not. No, you still
right. Yeah. And this one he makes the sacrifice, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't think about it that way. Maybe it's because you're not a writer." But
his character arc, if you like, you never think James Bond would have a character arc, but
he does in these 5 movies.
it did. I think a lot of people might have missed it because if you watch, especially with them being spaced out over such a long period of time. But to answer your question, I enjoyed it. It was very good.
Okay, so I am done with my questions and my fun questions. So, John, anything else? You saved my butt. So,
for your book that's coming out now, Dark Target, how did you get the idea for the Old Farts Club? I know you mentioned it earlier about the group that was meeting at McDonald's, but what was there more to that story of finding that group of characters to write about?
There was. I wanted to balance. I've always been interested and really respectful of the military, more so in the States than in England. I think, and a lot of people I went to school with in England served, but I don't think they get the same kind of respect as they do over here. I do a lot of. There's nothing to see with my camera. You can see that. So 22 a day. There's a project called Till Valhalla Project that basically remembers the fact that going back to the mental health thing, 22 US veterans lose their fight with any demons or things they've seen every single day. 22 veterans commit suicide daily in the States.
Wow.
And that's what a few thousand guys a year. It's never really noted. And this project makes a point of honoring these people. And I just wanted to get another side. So the books, I didn't get too heavy into them. I didn't really want to. In the first book, Dud, the character, suffers from PTSD. And researching PTSD as deeply as I did, I came to a point where I was like, I probably want to dial this back. There are people that are going to do this much better justice than me. I'm going to write an action book that's fun for people to read. And while it would be interesting to portray the PTSD side of it, so people out there already do it way better than I ever could. But primarily I wanted to get that in there. Mm-hmm. But all the guys, they come from all different backgrounds, which is fun to do. But I just wanted them to have adventures. I just thought these people that have been through and seen what they've seen have all got so much, also have all got certain skills that if you're sitting at McDonald's and you see a guy at the table with his cap, his second airborne cap on, you don't know what he's been through. You've no idea. His life story and what he's fighting now is fascinating ground. It's just incredible. I mean, you just have no idea what the person next to you has been through and what they've seen. And so the idea of getting all these people together, they're all totally different, and making them all work together just seemed like it would be a lot of fun, but be a good way to explore these characters. Yeah. And to balance it, there's a show years ago called The Unit that we loved. It's an American show. It's obviously not on anymore, but that had the same thing where the guys were part of an undercover kind of special ops unit, and it showcased their missions. And the other half of the show was the wives at home, because they're still at home while the men are away. And so I wanted to do something for the women in the book as well. So especially in Dark Target, the first book is about Dud's wife is kidnapped, and so she has her thread, which is her side of the story of being with the kidnappers, and Dud tries to rescue her. And the second book, I wanted to lighten up her story. So her and her sister go shopping, and someone steals the sister's phone, which starts off fairly innocuous, but it turns into something that has them chasing across the country and ends up being a kind of life or death situation.
Okay, well, I think
I had one more question. Is the term that you use the term Old Farts Club? Is the term Old Fart an English term as well, or did you learn that when you moved to Kentucky?
No, it is. It's universal, John. I'm sure they say it in Jamaica and Brazil.
Well, thank you very much, Mick.
I think it's just a universal term.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I also wanted to take a slight at Kentucky.
Oh
Of
no,
course you
I
do,
love
but
Kentucky.
yeah, he wants to say that, but he cheers for the Cleveland Browns. So what does he know?
Oh, my American brother cheers for the Browns too, so I'm staying silent on this one.
Well, I love your American brother. So they can find you on Facebook at Mick Williams Author, and they can find you on the internet at mickwilliamsauthor.com.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And I get them on Amazon, all the usual stuff. I've actually just started. I'm terrible with media. I've just synced my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Facebook all together.
Good job.
I just not even it's working properly yet, so
Hey.
half a job.
Still, that's a tough to do. That's still a tough thing for a lot of people to do. So
Yeah.
keep
I
working
was
at
going
it.
to say to Amy, I'm right. I've got 9 books. As of 2 days, I'll have 9 books out. I don't think most of them will even move the
Well,
bag yet.
supposedly she has a connection to a publicist, so maybe
Hey, Amy.
down the line, Come on, Amy. All right, all right, everyone. Mick, thanks for coming on. You can check
Thanks for
out
having
more
me,
of
John.
his work at mickwilliamsauthor.com, and you can check out Mick Williams Author on Facebook. And this is Recovery
what are
Unplugged
we?
Live. Next week, what are we doing?
I have to check in with Annabelle, but she's been doing Bridezilla, the movie. People hired her to do that. She's an actress, producer. In fact, she just put out a casting call on Facebook, like a shout out.
You check in with her. I will check back with the other guy and see if he's available. And if neither of them are available, we will be showing a special live screening of Letters to Daniel.
Ah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in for Recovery Unplugged Live. I'm John from June NBC Live. We have author Mick Williams and a great interview from our hostess with the mostest, Amy Leigh McCorkle. We will see you all next Monday.
Thank you, guys.
Next time.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Try to catch me howling at the moon.